My name is Catherine, and I'm a 27-year-old office worker. I just got married 6 months ago. I met my husband, Bob, at a barbecue party hosted by a couple of coworkers. Looking back, it seems that the gathering was set up as a matchmaking event, with the coworker inviting her female friends from the office, and her boyfriend bringing his old college buddies. In my family, since my father, who was a CEO of the company, was a strict disciplinarian, he enforced a curfew for me until I was in high school. Therefore, I never went to parties or mixers, and I always felt shy in large groups or places filled with guys. On that day, I mostly stuck to chatting with my female coworker friends, but Bob was the first to approach me.
Catherine, the meat's ready over here. You haven't eaten much, have you? Don't be shy, come on.
He smiled at me, and his easygoing manner made him really easy to talk to. We hit it off right away. Thanks to his natural way of bringing people together, I ended up joining the group, and before I knew it, I was having such a great time that the day flew by. On the way home that night, Bob asked for my contact info, and the next day, I got a message.
I had fun yesterday. Next time, I'd like to see you one-on-one.
Gathering my courage, I replied.
Me too.
And almost immediately, my phone rang.
Really? Wow, I'm so happy. When should we meet? Where do you want to go?
That exchange made my heart race. When he asked me to be his girlfriend after our first date, I was so happy that I said yes on the spot. On one of our dates, Bob offered to drive me home, and when we pulled up in front of my house, he seemed a little surprised.
I heard you were from a well-off family at the barbecue, but wow, this is some mansion. Is your dad a CEO or something?
Yeah, pretty much. Ever heard of the Savoy Group?
Savoy? Are you kidding? Everybody knows that name. So you're the daughter of a major CEO.
I'm not really a big deal.
Are you sure it's okay for someone like me to date you? If you've got a fiancé, you better tell me now.
He said that with a serious face, which made me laugh.
Oh, stop it. There's no one else, and I want to marry someone I love. I have an older brother and a younger brother, so I'm not taking over the family business.
Really?
Of course.
That was the only time we talked about it, and after that, nothing changed. We kept dating. About a year later, he proposed. After introducing Bob to my parents, we got married. Even after the wedding, he remained kind. About a month ago, my mother called to tell me that my father wasn't feeling well and was going into the hospital for some tests. I was shocked and worried, but Bob comforted me and offered to drive us to see him. When we visited, my father said,
"Sorry to make you worry. I've just been busy lately and feeling tired."
and laughed it off, but that weekend, we were called to gather at my parents' house. My brother's family, my still single younger brother, Bob, and me, we hadn't all been together since our wedding. I had a bad feeling, and sadly, it was right. My father had cancer, and it had already spread to the point where surgery was no longer an option.
I was shocked too. They said I'd get the results in a week, but they called me in the next day and gave me a terminal diagnosis.
My father spoke bravely, while my mother tried to hold back her tears beside him.
No way.
Bob gently put his hand on my shoulder as tears streamed down my face. My brothers were also stunned, unable to find any words.
But I'm not dying tomorrow. There are a lot of things I still need to take care of as the head of the family and the company. I'm going to need your help with that.
My father said, directing his words mostly toward my older brother.
And Bob,
He said, turning to my husband who was standing beside me.
I'm sorry to put you through this so early in your marriage, but please take care of Catherine for me.
Of course, if there's anything I can do, please let me know.
Bob replied, bringing tears to my eyes again. At my father's strong request, he decided against staying in the hospital and opted for at-home palliative care. Thankfully, the medication worked well, and with his determination, he remained active at first.
You'd never believe he's sick. He keeps busy.
My mother said. My father informed his secretary, board members, and lawyers of the situation and began to get things in order. My mother, of course, took care of him tirelessly, while my brothers supported him both at home and at work. My older brother, being the heir, had built a house near our parents after getting married, and my younger brother, who was still single, lived with them. I tried to stop by my parents' house as often as possible after work, and on weekends, I always made sure to be with my father. Bob would come with me on weekends, too, and on weekdays when I visited my parents, he'd say, "Don't worry about dinner tonight," which made me appreciate his support even more. One day, when I came home after visiting my parents, Bob was already back, and I could hear him talking in the living room. Was he on the phone? I quietly entered the room.
Yeah, it'll be soon. He doesn't have much time left.
Hearing that made my heart skip a beat. What was that? What did he mean?
Whoa.
Bob jumped when he noticed me come in and quickly hung up the phone.
Oh, hi, you're back?
Yeah. Well, who were you talking to just now? What were you talking about? Were you talking about my dad?
What? No way. I was just talking to a friend about a game. You remember that gamer buddy of mine, right?
But I heard you say something about not having much time left.
He's in a gaming tournament and he's struggling. We were talking about how his opponent is about to run out of items, so it's looking bad for him.
Oh, I see. Sorry. I thought you were talking about my dad. I was really shocked for a second there.
Catherine,
Bob gently put his hand on my shoulder.
it makes me sad when you misunderstand like that. I'm worried about your dad too, and I'm always thinking about whether there's anything that could help him.
He said with a serious expression.
You're right. I'm sorry. You're always so kind, but I was feeling down after visiting my dad. He hasn't been eating much lately.
I see. I'm sorry that I can't do anything more to help, but it's not good to keep feeling down. Maybe you should go out with your friends for coffee or something once in a while.
Yeah, thank you.
I felt relieved by his response and guilty for doubting such a kind husband. Then, a month later, despite our family's hopes, my father passed away. My mother, my brothers, and I were all there at the end, and I'm grateful we could say our final goodbyes. There was so much to do that it kept me distracted from my grief. The funeral and all the business matters, like my older brother taking over as CEO and the new company structure, kept us all busy. Since my father had already discussed everything with the management team he trusted, there was no opposition to my still young brother becoming CEO. My mother seemed relieved, saying,
There are so many people supporting him.
my brother's character helped, and it was also a testament to how much my father had always valued the company and its employees. By the following weekend, things had settled down a bit, and the family gathered at the request of the family attorney. The main topic was inheritance, and it was announced that the 3 children would each receive an equal share of the estate. The total amount was around $3 million. I could tell Bob was holding his breath beside me. I was shocked too. It was an overwhelming amount. While I was grateful, I couldn't help but wish my father had lived longer instead. Other matters, like the company's ownership and real estate, were also discussed, but we decided to continue the conversation at another time and wrapped up the meeting. Exhausted from all the difficult discussions, I told Bob when we got home
I'm going to rest for a bit.
and headed for the bedroom.
Yeah, take it easy. About the inheritance, since no one opposed it, I guess that's final, right?
I think so. Why?
Nothing, it's just that the amount was much bigger than expected. I'm honestly a bit overwhelmed.
I know, it was a shock to me too.
As I lay down in the bedroom, something about his words stuck with me.
Bigger than expected?
I wondered as I drifted off to sleep for a bit. When I woke up, I quietly headed to the living room.
I'm serious, man. It's $3 million. I'm telling you, it's legit. Yeah, no worries. After all I've done. Oh, Oh, she's up. I gotta go. Talk to you later.
Who was that?
I asked, trying to stay calm as I looked at Bob on the phone.
Oh, yeah. That was my mother. She was just checking in, asking how you were holding up.
Okay.
And, she's asking if it's okay to come over this weekend. Apparently, a new bakery opened up, and she really wants you to try the cake.
Sure, that sounds nice. I'll pick up some good coffee to go with it.
He nodded, looking pleased as I smiled. A definite sense of doubt had started to grow within me. The day before my mother-in-law was supposed to visit, I stopped by my parents' house.
How are you doing, Mom? Are you starting to feel a little better?
Yes, sweetie. You don't need to stop by so often. Even Mary has been visiting regularly, always checking in on me. How about you? Are you eating enough?
Mary is my older brother's wife, a quiet but dependable and caring woman. She had been a huge help during my father's illness, and she supported my mother throughout the funeral as well. My brother really married a wonderful person.
I'm fine, don't worry about me. But actually, I need to talk to you about something.
Oh, what is it?
There's something that's been bothering me.
I started telling my mother about the doubts I had about Bob while sipping the tea she made for me. The next day, on Saturday, my mother-in-law came over. The last time we saw each other was at my father's funeral.
Catherine, I'm so sorry about your father. I brought some delicious cake to try to cheer you up, even if just a little.
Thank you. And thank you again for everything during that time. Let me make us some coffee.
Oh, thank you, dear.
As the three of us sat down to eat cake, Bob suddenly brought up the topic.
So, about the inheritance.
Yes?
Could you transfer that $3 million into my mom's account?
What?
It was completely unexpected, far beyond anything I could have imagined. I was left speechless for a moment.
I don't understand what you mean.
That's a lot of money, right? You've got to be nervous holding on to it. But you're part of our family now, so I think it's best if we move it to her account.
What was he saying? This made no sense at all.
Wait, are you asking to borrow some of the money? Maybe for something expensive like a car?
Did you say borrow? What are you talking about? That money's already ours. My family's.
He laughed suddenly.
Hold on, I don't understand.
Bob means the family you married into. You're part of us now, so your money is our money, right?
My mother-in-law chimed in with a sweet smile.
I'll handle it for you. If you need anything, just ask. But you have your salary, so you should be fine, right?
Wait a minute. I got more confused. Even if we're talking about our money as a couple, why would it become yours, Mom?
Well, of course, it's our money now. Naturally, that includes my mom, too.
No way. What are you saying?
Don't worry, your family, too. First, we can build a big two-family house and maybe get a new car. No problem with $3 million in the bank, right?
Oh dear, you're getting ahead of yourself. But yes, we should start planning the two-family house right away.
So go ahead and transfer the money to my mom's account. Come on now.
Yes, Catherine, please. A daughter-in-law's money belongs to her in-laws, right?
Finally showing their true colors, I was horrified beyond words. They were worse than I could have ever imagined.
Bob, did you marry me just for my family's money?
What? No, I really do love you. It's just that loving you includes everything that comes with being you, including the money. When I found out you were from a wealthy family, I realized I had to marry you fast.
That's right. I told Bob there was no way he could let this chance slip by. And Bob has treated you so well, hasn't he?
To get my family's fortune?
Oh, don't make that face, okay? You're part of your husband's family now, so of course the money belongs to us. Honestly, we got lucky with your dad's illness coming right after the wedding.
Yeah, seriously. I was thinking we'd be set for the future, but I never imagined he'd head off to heaven so soon.
How can you guys say such a terrible thing? Were you hoping for my father's death?
I couldn't stop my body from trembling.
He got cancer, not us. If he couldn't be saved, what could we do? We just prayed for him to find peace quickly.
Exactly. It's better that he didn't suffer long. Now he's passed on and left his fortune to his children. It's what he would have wanted.
Bob had always been so kind to me. That's why, even when I overheard that unbelievable phone call, I convinced myself it was just a misunderstanding. I had been fooled by his flawless performance. Looking back, there had been a small seed of doubt growing inside me. Still, I thought it was natural for people to feel a little excited about marrying into wealth or enjoying a bit of luxury. However, this wasn't just about that. I couldn't forgive them, these heartless people. Swallowing my rising anger, I calmly said,
The money hasn't even been deposited into my account yet. I was told it would take about another week for the process to be completed.
Huh, really? I thought it would have been transferred by now. Make sure it happens fast.
Well, at least she understands what needs to be done now. Catherine, you're smart. When the money arrives, just hand it over to me, and I'll take care of everything.
Yeah, I'll give you Mom's account info later so you can transfer it right away.
Bob added as he tried to put his arm around my shoulders. I managed to slip away from his grasp, refusing to call him my husband anymore, struggling to keep my composure.
Please come back next week.
As I said, my mother-in-law replied with a bright smile.
Sure, dear.
And she left. Then, the day arrived. This was the day I'd finally confront these awful people who had been happy about my father's death and were eager to claim his inheritance. When they barged into my home and sat down, my mother-in-law immediately spoke up.
Catherine, did the $3 million come through? Have you transferred it to my account yet?
Let's celebrate tonight. How about steak?
Oh, that sounds lovely. With $3 million coming in, I'll treat us tonight.
They were both in such high spirits. It was no wonder, thinking they were about to get their hands on $3 million. Little did they know everything was about to change.
Well, I have something to report.
I said with a calm smile.
I've completed the paperwork to renounce my inheritance.
What?
Their voices perfectly harmonized in shock, like mother, like son. Even their wide-eyed expressions were identical.
What did you say?
You're giving up the inheritance?
Yes, I renounced it.
Stop joking around. No one in their right mind would do something so stupid.
That's right. Who in the world would just hand over $3 million for nothing?
Well, usually people do that when there's a lot of debt, more liabilities than assets.
Exactly. But there's no debt here, so it's insane to give up that money.
My mother-in-law shrieked, her face contorted in rage. That was terrifying.
Oh, didn't you know? It's not that uncommon for heirs in a family business to renounce their inheritance if they want to pass the assets to a specific person. It's often done to ensure stable long-term management.
Huh? What?
How could you?
They were both at a loss for words. That was not really surprising. Greedy people like them would never even consider giving away money.
In our case, since my older brother had to take over so quickly, I decided I would support him as his sister.
But that's insane. Giving up your inheritance is just ridiculous. You're being manipulated by your brother and his wife.
That's right. His wife is probably the one after the money.
As they both shouted in a panic, I snapped with my cold voice.
Don't lump them in with you guys. This was my decision. Neither my brother nor his wife wanted me to renounce the inheritance. In fact, she's a wonderful person who insisted I didn't need to do it.
If they told you not to, then reconsider. It's not too late.
I already told you, I've completed the paperwork. There's no $3 million coming my way.
Oh my gosh.
I would never give a single penny to someone who would rejoice in the death of their in-laws, let alone their own parents.
Bob had been pale the whole time beside his mother, who suddenly lifted her head with her face turning blue.
I can't believe this. No inheritance? Bob, you're getting a divorce. You'll sue her for compensation.
What?
I blurted out, stunned by her audacity.
Of course. Bob's done nothing wrong, and yet you've recklessly given up the inheritance. And all that talk about us being after the money or celebrating your father's death. Where's the proof? We put on a great act at the wake and the funeral, didn't we? Oh dear.
She cackled, her words flowing effortlessly. She even admitted to faking it, didn't she?
Proof? You've just given me plenty of that.
Oh please, no one knows except you. Stop this foolishness, apologize, and then maybe we won't divorce you.
At that moment, a loud voice boomed through the living room.
You're the one who should be apologizing.
What?
My mother-in-law froze in place, turning around to see a calm, steady man standing behind her.
Honey, what are you doing here?
Dad?
Bob turned pale. His father had just entered the room. I glanced at my mother, standing behind my father-in-law, and we exchanged a nod.
You've always been someone who cares too much about appearances. You were so excited when Bob married Catherine, but I never imagined you were this kind of person. I couldn't believe it until I heard it with my own ears. Bob, you're no better.
His voice was filled with sorrow.
What? What's going on?
Bob and his mother stammered, their faces paling.
You came here last week demanding Catherine hand over her inheritance, didn't you? I heard every word of that conversation.
Are you kidding me?
It was all recorded, just like today.
Hey, what does this mean?
Bob shouted at me, desperate.
You got nervous when I overheard those phone calls, didn't you? You thought you had me fooled, but I wasn't going to be deceived again. So, when your mom said she was coming over, I set my phone to record, just in case.
The day before my mother-in-law's visit, I went to my parents' house to talk to my mother and our attorney. At first, my mother couldn't believe it, saying,
That can't be true.
but the reality was even worse than we imagined. Thus, I decided to renounce my inheritance and immediately started the paperwork that Monday. That same day, I reached out to my father-in-law, who hadn't shown up with the rest of the family. He had always enjoyed playing chess and golf with my father, so he was devastated by the actions of his wife and son, apologizing profusely.
I can't stay with someone like you any longer.
Honey, no, you don't understand. This isn't what it looks like.
Catherine's dad was a humble and admirable man, despite being the CEO of a major company. I was proud to be friends with him and his family. But this is beyond disgraceful. I can't apologize enough.
My father-in-law then apologized to me again.
Catherine, I'm truly sorry. I'll support you in getting a divorce right away. And I promise there will be no talk of compensation or anything ridiculous like that.
Hey, Dad.
Shut up! Don't say another word, you disgraceful fool. If you have any complaints, I'll make sure that both today's and last week's recordings get sent to your workplace and every relative we have.
No, please do not.
In the end, my father-in-law really stole the show with that one, but that's okay. When we talked at my mother's house, he had cried, saying how sorry he was and how much he respected my father. Bob and his mother were left speechless, their mouths moving but no words coming out. I turned to them and said,
That's how it is. Please leave.
1 month later, Bob and I got divorced. Word spread from the couple who had hosted the barbecue where we first met, and Bob lost all his friends. He was also transferred to a distant, small branch at work. Furthermore, his parents ended up divorcing as well. His mother had been spending his father's money freely on brand-name goods and dining out. Therefore, she was told that if she couldn't pay back what she had squandered, she had no choice but to agree to the divorce. As a spendthrift housewife with no income, she had no other option. She couldn't even muster up the words to say,
I'll work part-time to pay it back. Please don't leave me.
Her unwillingness to change and rebuild her relationship with her husband showed her true character. Well, that's no longer my concern. Bob's father came to our family home to apologize once again, asking if he could at least pay a visit to my father's altar on the anniversary of his passing. My mother and I both, of course, said yes. The inheritance I gave up will now be used as capital for the company. My mother and even my brothers all offered to give me part of their inheritance or suggested redistributing it, which made me laugh. I already have more than enough with such a loving family.
Dad, I didn't make the wrong choice, right?
I asked, standing in front of my father's portrait after moving back home from the apartment I had shared with Bob. The smile on my father's face in the photo seemed to brighten, and tears began to fall from my eyes.